Hello film fans, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, Tyler's Real Movie Talk, guys. And in this video, I'm going to give you my initial thoughts on Justice League. Now, this movie came out of November last year, but I just really wanted to get my thoughts about it out there, as I am a huge fan of Justice League, and I am a huge fan of DC Comics in general. So guys, look, I liked this movie when I first saw it, and I think it's because I was on the hype train of, man, these characters all together, this is fantastic, you know? The chemistry between the characters was really great, and it's really what I think made me like the film at first. But something very interesting happened. The more and more that I watched the film, I've realized that I liked it less and less and less with each time that I watched the film. And guys, that's something that's really never happened before. That's why I think it's so interesting that it did happen like that with this film. And guys, like I said, the first time I saw it, I was on board the hype train. I liked it, and I just liked seeing those characters come together because as a comic book reader, I love those characters. The DC characters are the most iconic comic book characters of all time. When anyone thinks of superheroes, the first two names that pop up in people's heads are Superman and Batman, and rightfully so. It is because they are iconic. They are great characters. And guys, I gotta say that I just, this film has so many bad things about it, but let's just get into the good things first. Let's just get into the good things first before I go on my bad rant here. So one of the good things here is Ben Affleck as Batman. I really enjoy Ben Affleck as Batman. I think he's a great Batman, and I think he delivered both in Batman v Superman and this film. He is the shining light in this film, to me. Now, guys, with that being said, I don't like the way his character was written in this film. I don't like the way they wrote Batman in this film. It didn't feel right. It didn't feel like an original or like just a continuation of Batman v Superman. It just didn't to me. I don't know about you guys, but if there was a total like shift in the character, I feel like Warner Brothers, they definitely got shaky because of Batman v Superman and how dark it was. So they basically told Zack Snyder, which way they were already in the middle of shooting Justice League when Batman v Superman came out, and all these negative reactions came out about the film. So Warner Brothers went to Zack Snyder like in a panic, like, oh my god, you have to make these characters lighter, you have to make them more hopeful, you have to do this, you have to do that, basically saying you have to make these characters like the Avengers. And that's not what you have to do. And Warner Brothers is so dumb. They're so dumb for doing that. You know what I mean? Like, you're already halfway through shooting the film, and then you pull some crap like that, and it ruins the whole movie. Now they gotta reshoot everything. Now they gotta rewrite everything. And it's just really dumb. And for Warner Brothers, I just feel like it's stupid how they did that. Like, it's dumb. Like a studio, you should know, hey, you know what? The vision that you have is the vision that you have. Whether or not it works out, we'll see, you know what I mean? But you don't change it midway through. Like Marvel doesn't go into films like, oh, the audience didn't like this part about the film, so guess what? We're gonna panic and we're gonna change all of that in our next film. It's like, no, that's not how you make movies, and it bums me out that Warner Brothers, a great studio, just doesn't know how to handle their DC characters. Like, it is really not that hard, and they just don't know how to handle them at all. And guys, you see me getting frustrated because I love the DC characters. I am passionate about the DC characters. They are characters I grew up with. I grew up reading. They're characters that I love, characters that I enjoy. And to see Warner Brothers totally ruin them, it makes me mad because, like I said, they just ruined it. They ruined it for everybody. Nobody likes this movie, really. Nobody, well, some people like it, but nobody really loves this movie. And this should be a movie that people love. That's what they should have tried to make. And instead, they were so reactionary and just made Zack Snyder change so much about the film, guys. And going on to Zack Snyder, I really feel like he got lowballed. I mean, for those of you that don't know, they were midway through shooting this film, and then he had a family tragedy occur. So he had to leave the shoot because he wanted to be with his family, and rightfully so. He needed to mourn this tragedy, and Warner Brothers would not wait for him to get back to finish the movie. They would have to move the release date back, sure, and it would probably come out sometime this year if they did that. But Warner Brothers, for whatever reason, and the rumor has it actually that the reason is that they didn't want to push it back is because they wouldn't get their bonus checks if Justice League came out late, which is just, oh my goodness, that is just every wrong thing a studio should do with making a movie. They should have waited for Zack Snyder to return and finish out his vision. Instead, what do? They go get Joss Whedon, a completely different director, completely different tone, completely different style of directing, and they go out and get him to finish the movie. And what does he do? He rewrites a lot of it. He reshoots a lot of it. And you can tell, one of the things that bothers me so much about this movie is you can tell what scenes are Zack Snyder's and what scenes are Joss Whedon. They are that obvious. Zack Snyder, the way he directs, the screen's more darker, the picture's more darker. The way Joss Whedon directs, the screen's light, it all pops, and you can just tell through watching the film. You're like, oh yeah, that's a Zack Snyder scene. Oh yeah, that's a Joss Whedon scene. It is so obvious to tell, in my opinion, which is which. And I just didn't like it. They should have waited for Zack Snyder to come back. And look, say what you want about Man of Steel, which I think is one of the greatest comic book movies ever made, and nobody can change my opinion on that. That movie is fantastic. It is completely underrated in the comic book genre. But say what you want about Batman v Superman. If you didn't like it, whatever. You know, what you don't realize is Zack Snyder, the movie he made of that film was 3 hours long. That's the film he made. That's the film he wanted to put out. And those of you who haven't seen the 3 hour long one, it's a better movie than the 2.5 hour one that got released in theaters. It truly is. There's more character development. You care more when Superman dies. You care more about the characters. It flows so much better. Even though it's 30 minutes longer and it's 3 hours, it feels a lot shorter than a 2.5 hour one because it just flows much better. And Warner Brothers, they got all reactionary, like, oh my goodness, the audience is going to be so mad that we release a 3 hour film. We got to cut it down. We got to cut it down 30 minutes at least. So they cut out all these scenes, and it really made the film feel so rough, you know what I mean? And that's the same thing here with Justice League. The movie felt rough because, again, they made Zack Snyder cut some things out. They made him rewrite some things, and then he had to leave, and then they brought in Joss Whedon, and it was just, the whole thing was discombobulated. It was disorganized. You can tell through the film. And guys, like I said, you know, if there's one thing I want you to take away from this video, don't blame Zack Snyder for this film. This is not the film he made. They changed so much. Zack Snyder, I've read reports about the film he wanted to release, guys, and it actually sounded pretty darn good. It really did. We were going to see Darkseid in the movie, which would have been great. We were going to see Superman's black suit in the film, which is fantastic. I don't know why we didn't see it, because in the comic books, when he dies and comes back, he has a black suit. And there's Warner Brothers getting in and cutting things out and just changing everything. You know, if there's one thing they can take from Marvel, and I'm not saying Marvel's better or whatever, guys. I mean, I like them both. I want them both to succeed because I'm a fan of superhero movies. I don't care where they're from, to be honest. I'm just a fan of those type of movies. And just Warner Brothers, one thing they can take away from Marvel is you keep the characters the same as the comic books. You get the heart of the character right as it was in the comic books. And Warner Brothers just can't do it. They really just can't do it. They don't know how. They don't care about these characters. They have people in the executive office that probably never even read a comic book in their lives. And they want to change all these things. It's like, no, you don't even know what the character is. You don't know who he is at heart. You don't understand any of that. You don't care about the characters. All you care about is your paycheck. And that's totally wrong way to go about this, guys. And it just really frustrates me that people blame Zack Snyder for this film. It is like, it is not his fault. It is not remotely his fault. I understand. You might have not liked Justice League even if they stuck with Zack Snyder's vision. I get that, you know. Maybe we wouldn't have. Maybe it would have been worse. Maybe it would have been better. But the thing is when you sign a director on, and he worked years of his life on these properties, because he directed Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and Justice League. He devoted so much time, and to lowball him like that and really make him the scapegoat of all this is really, it's just classless. it's just bad. You know what I mean? It's just bad, and I just feel so bad for the guy because it's like this was not his movie. This is not the one he intended to make. This was not the one he intended to put out there. And guys, like I said, with all the meddling of the movie and all that, you could tell this movie was just, it was rough. I mean, it was cut, 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 cut. Nothing felt like it flowed together smoothly. You were done with one scene and then you just went right on to another one, which had nothing to do with the other scene. It was bad, guys. It was bad. And another negative thing, guys, is the villain, Steppenwolf. Look, this villain was not interesting at all, which is really a bummer to me because those of you that read the comics know that Steppenwolf is actually a good villain, If done right, he could have been really compelling, he could have been really good, but he was not done right at all. I mean, from the way he was written all the way to the way he was portrayed on screen, it was just bad. The CGI of him, he looked like a video game character, like he came straight out of a video game into the real world, and it was, oh my goodness. And it's like another thing DC can take from Marvel. Look, you take your time with these films. Look how amazing Thanos looks in Avengers Infinity War. You can see every crease in his face, you could see everything like that, and it looks so good. Like, that is how you do a CGI character. And Warner Brothers they totally botched it. They botched this whole thing, and they might have botched it so bad to where they have to reboot this universe, which would be a bummer because the actors playing the superheroes, I actually enjoy all the actors playing the superheroes, and if you have to recast them, it's a bummer. Like, they messed up this movie so bad that people have no interest in this universe anymore, and they showed it by not going to Justice League. Look, Justice League should have easily been the highest grossing film of the DCEU, and what happened? It ended up being the lowest. And why is that? It's because the fans told you, we are sick of what you guys are putting out there, we are sick of you messing with Zack Snyder's vision, and we are sick of you guys just meddling with everything in the film. And we are sick that you guys don't care about these characters. So we're done supporting this universe. We're done with it. And that's just really a bummer to me, guys, because these characters are great. Like I said before, these characters are fantastic. They're the most iconic characters in the world, if you really think about it. And just to do that to them, it was just bad, guys. And guys, one thing I do have to mention on a positive note is Henry Cavill as Superman. I love Henry Cavill as Superman. I loved him in Man of Steel, I loved him in Batman v Superman, and I loved him in this movie. And mainly, the dialogue of Superman and how he acted, I will say this about the film. They got that right. He wasn't such a dark character, such a, just a down, emotional character in this film. He had hope, you know what I mean? And he brought the hope to the Justice League, and that's really what he does in the comics. So I loved that part about Superman. And I love Henry Cavill as Superman. Look, when you see him in the Superman suit, the Superman suit, excuse me, the fans that have read the comics, they look at that and they go, hey, that looks exactly like Superman's supposed to look. He looks like Superman. You can buy into that. He just looks exactly like you would want him to look. And the way he acts as the character is exactly how you think Superman would act. And I just really feel bad for Henry Cavill as well, because in Man of Steel, he was great in Man of Steel. And then you have Batman v Superman, and then they decide, hey, we got to put Ben Affleck more screen time. So he kind of got pushed to the back in Batman v Superman. And then in this movie, he's dead for a good half of the movie that you don't see him. And it's just like he got lowballed as well as Zack Snyder did, which is really unfortunate because, like I said, Henry Cavill is probably my favorite of all the cast members. He embodies Superman fantastically. And I'm really sad they couldn't find a way to better portray him and better get him, more lines and more things to do and really push him to the forefront of the film. So guys, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention the CGI. Look, the CGI, I already mentioned it with Steppenwolf. It's bad. And you see it with Henry Cavill and his mustache, guys. Look, he was filming Mission Impossible, I believe, at the time that they were going to do reshoots when they got Joss Whedon back in. So they needed to reshoot everything, and they needed him to come back and be Superman again. But the thing is the people with Mission Impossible, they would not let him shave his mustache to come back. They wouldn't let him do it. They said, hey, we have him under contract for this movie. He needs to have the mustache. We don't feel like adding in the mustache CGI or practically. We just don't feel like doing that. So what they did was basically they told Warner Brothers to go screw themselves and to figure it out for themselves, which is fine. They had no obligation to bend to Warner Brothers' will. He was under contract for that movie, so it's understandable they would not let him cut off the mustache. But guys, trying to digitally remove the mustache, it was terrible. I mean, from the very first scene of the movie with the kid with the cell phone talking to Superman, it just looks bad. Those of you guys who haven't noticed it, I'm telling you, now that you know, next time you watch the movie, look at his face when he talks. It is like moving. His upper lip, it doesn't even fit in with the face, and it just looks terrible. And again, that's another Henry Cavill thing that I feel bad about. You know what I mean? Just getting lowballed. So guys, I mean, the CGI was bad. Look, there are some things that are good about this movie. Like I said, the characters, the actors playing the roles were great. The chemistry between the characters was great. But the story was bad. There's so many rough cuts. The CGI was bad. The villain was bad. The way it was directed was bad because there's two different directors working on this film. But guys, that's what I think, and honestly, guys, I can't recommend this movie. Look, if I saw it the first time, I would recommend it. I mean, even if you're a comic book fan and you like these characters, definitely give this movie a shot. But look, I can't recommend it really with like glowing eyes or anything like that. I just can't. It wasn't as good of a movie as I thought it would be. It wasn't even close. So guys, that's my thoughts on the Justice League film. Definitely let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Did you guys like this film? Did you not? Why or why not? Are they some of the reasons as I had? And guys, if you like this video, be sure to click that thumbs up and hit that subscribe button and the notification bell, which will notify you anytime I have any new content coming out, guys. And with all of that out of the way, thank you for watching.